Welcome back, everybody, to We Are TPM with myself, Kyle Teixeira, sitting once again next to John Teixeira to discuss this week personal attachment and property management, and to give you some data behind it, because we, emotional decisions and stuff like that we bring up every once in a while. If you guys have any questions about this, want to give us a call, 817-818-9039, or always shoot us an email. Tell me how much you love money at show me the money at wearetpm.com. Let's get into it. Personal attachment. Nobody gets attached to their properties. I don't even know why we're doing this topic. That doesn't not occur.
Well, first-time investors do, right? And people that are a little bit less experienced do, and people that are renting their first home, which is really common for first-time investors, right? They're renting a home that they lived in, I should say.
I should have pulled up stats on that. I didn't come prepared, but I wonder how many landlords get that way by converting their first primary residence into a rental.
I bet you that's a really high number. I mean, I would be surprised if it's not 70, 75%. I mean, I could probably say it's probably 50. It's probably close to 50% of our clients. Well, we are okay.
That's a.
I don't know about that.
It's not like a national sample size or something, but that's just what I'm going with.
But it is a common thing when we talk to people for the first time, right? There's a little bit of a reprogramming that has to happen sometimes when we bring clients on because of that personal attachment they have to their home and the decisions that they want to make and ask us to try to make for them and so forth. There's just a difference between thinking about your rental property as an investor versus as a homeowner.
Or thinking about your rental property as a rental property instead of your home.
Which is a business, yep.
Yeah. So, which angle you want to come at this, John? I think emotional decision-making is probably a good first starting point, right?
Yeah, sure, let's do it.
So self-managing landlords, they often make decisions based on personal attachment and emotions, which leads to really optimal outcomes, right? I think I said that wrong. Suboptimal outcomes.
I hate picking on people, but I have stories, right? And so, without using names, if this person listens to this, they'll know exactly who I'm talking about. But I have a client who, they needed to get some money out of their property, and we're trying to get it ready for rent so we can put a long-term rental in there. And somebody calls them and tells them that they want to sign on the dotted line to make it an Airbnb. Somebody from California who doesn't even know the regulations of the city it's in, right? And she goes into action, flies from California to Texas and starts making beds, cleaning sheets, pulling dishes out and putting them back in the cabinets. And I was like, why are you doing this? Like, this is probably not going to happen. Why are you doing this? This is not an effective use of your time and resources. And she sees it now because she's done it twice, and I've told her that twice, and she's done this twice now. So both times it became a waste of her time. And so, but that's the difference between having some experience and thinking like an investor and knowing the facts, and then thinking like somebody who's personally attached to either the property or their finances.
Yeah, I think that one goes a little bit higher level than just personal attachment. That's don't execute on deals
Hearsay.
And contracts that aren't signed,
Yeah.
It's common in our industry to say verbal agreements are
useless.
verbal agreements.
Yep. Until there's money and signatures, it don't matter.
Yeah. So verbal agreements are never broken.
But you're right, Kyle. That was a pretty extreme example of what we're talking about. The more common examples are, regarding turnovers. But I think what you're getting at is even like the decision making that is made during the screening process. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's step one. So tenant selection is where it starts, right? The famous line, I went with my gut. It's something I'm just going to not even make a comment on and just tell you some statistics on it. The American Apartment Owners Association found 60% of self-managing landlords admit the making tenant selections based on personal feelings rather than objective criteria, leading to a higher risk of problematic tenants. 60%.
You know what? We talked about this before. This is the reason why. We talked about this during our marketing podcast. That right there is the reason why people call and they ask, are you the owner? Are you the property manager? What are you? And as soon as they find out I'm a property manager, they go away because they only want to be able to snow and snow a homeowner because they know they can.
They can't snow until they know. Yeah, pretty much. But 60%, that means 60.
That's a lot.
That was a long way of saying that 60% of landlords go with their gut when selecting a tenant.
I wonder if that also means that they don't screen them at all.
That's what it's saying. Rather than objective criteria. Objective criteria would be screening.
Our biggest and our biggest client admitted to doing just that before they took us on is one of the reasons why they took us on.
Well, a lot of people admit to that. I mean, there's we talk about this we're doing this series over the cost concerns and the things that people think about when considering property management or don't think about, and this is one of them. It leads you to ending up with a property manager later on. We see that so often that, all right, I did this the first time. These are the problems I caused. This is the length of time I didn't have rent, which always blows our mind, right? 6 months to a year. Like someone legitimately lived in your property for a year because you went on a gut decision. So that's an interesting statistic.
Or even more sad, right? Even worse than they end up with a property manager. That's the best outcome in that scenario. What I hear all the time is people decide to get out and sell their rental properties because they're tired of, what do they call it? Tenants and toilets.
Yep.
If you're tired of tenants and toilets, then stop dealing with tenants and toilets and let the professionals do it. Because the problem isn't the investment property. The problem is you dealing with the investment property.
I thought it was a toilet. No.
Well, it was, it's a toilet.
Oh, it's a tenant. And a tenant.
Yep.
So, and rent setting. So we talked a lot about market rents. We talk a lot about rent, but this is some just give you some data on when they set the rent. Self-managing landlords this is according to Urban Land Institution. Self-managing landlords set rents below market rates to attract tenants they feel comfortable with. Personally comfortable with, resulting in 5 to 10% lower rental incomes. So it should make you more money going with your gut. That's not what we're hearing, right?
I just had a text message not too long ago of somebody asking me if we would take $1,000 less a month on a house and sign a 3-year lease. That is the kind of decision a self-managed person would actually consider and do, right? I gave them an immediate no. Because we have systems for this, right? We have certainty. We have certainty in what we're doing. We've talked about this. We have the experience to know that we can say no, and this is not something we need to consider. Self-managed landlords, they don't have that same certainty. And sometimes they have failure in their past, which adds to it. And those things make them consider doing those kinds of proposals to people that, look, you don't want to put anybody in a 3-year lease. That's not good for anybody but the tenant.
Well, and you still get, outside of that, those requests, you get the stories or the background story of why the objective data should be ignored. And even though those are always heard, decisions are still made based on the objective data, right? And in comparison, tenant screening, we got the National Multifamily Housing Council, the NMHC we've been talking about.
Oh, right.
They report property managers using their screening tools result in 20 to 25% lower tenant turnover rates than the 60% that go with their gut.
So last week we talked about, I think from that same source, how property managers get 8%, I believe, more rent.
Yeah, and we didn't even talk about
and then now they're getting 22% less turnover rate. That's amazing. That's like that more than pays for a property manager.
You would think so.
I know so.
Was that because I'm giving you all this data that supports that statement?
I love it. This stuff's going. This stuff's it's going in. It's gonna be reused later. I promise.
So we're gonna compare this now to the rent setting, right? Rent setting, because that they're comfortable with. The same report, the ULI that I mentioned earlier, reported 5 to 10% increase in rental income for professional managed properties based on the objective decision making. So we're talking lower turnover rate, we're talking higher rent, but it's really not even necessarily that the rent is increased over market. It's just market-based analysis.
Okay, so let's get back to our topic is about owners that are too personally invested in their properties. So attachment. Some of these decisions and some of these things are happening because I spent 3 days putting that 89 cent a square foot laminate flooring in the living room. And that's the best 89 cent laminate flooring that you could buy at Home Depot. And I put the extra thick padding underneath it too, so you can't hear it. I mean, that's the kind of, so people think that they should get more money for that, right? God forbid they put the $1.29 stuff in. I'm being a little bit facetious right now.
Or they don't even dig into those details enough, right? That's what we probably see more often is like, look, I looked on Zillow and my neighbor down the street's getting $2,600, so I should get $2,600.
with travertine floors and...
Yeah, I'm like, dude, your neighbor down the street's got marble counters, this walk-in shower, walk-in closets, a pool, a hot tub, all this stuff. Right. You got a house from the 70s.
It still looks like it's in the 70s.
It looks like a time traveling machine, and you're not going to get $2,600 if they're getting $2,600. So to us, that's objectively something that supports that you're not going to get that. And they're like, no, my neighbor down the street gets that. So that's what I was expecting to get when I put in this padded flooring and all these things that may not get you the market rent you're looking for.
Yep.
So
you got any other stats over there?
Not on that subject.
Okay.
My next stats are maintenance and upkeep. So
maintenance and upkeep.
No attachments to that.
Yeah, no, there's tons of personal attachments because every time maintenance comes up, right, it's like, oh, no, I put that in myself and I did that last year and, that kind of stuff. And it's like, it's not objective. It's never an objective. It's always thinking back. And sometimes that stuff, knowing that stuff is beneficial, but I guess our point is more times than not, it ends up being not beneficial to the decision making, right? We can't deny the fact that a homeowner that lived in a home or maintained their own home for a certain period of time knows more about it than anybody else, right? Mm-hmm. So I get that, but they also, as we're talking about, they also value the things in their home or the things they've done too much usually. And that usually turns into some negative decision-making regarding rental amounts, decisions on screening, and all that good stuff.
We see all the time, when it comes to maintenance and upkeep, we see all the time where people move out of their home and make it a rental, and they're like, I lived there for 6-7 years, and this never happened. And I move out, and telling me all these things are wrong. This is on the tenant. This is their fault because, it's really just because you didn't care when you were a homeowner. Because you own the home, so you're the one responsible.
Or sometimes it's just coincidence.
Yeah, and I'd say a lot of times it's coincidence.
You move out and then the water heater goes. Whose fault is that? You pinning that on the tenant? That happens when it happens.
Or the AC goes out. It's all, you want your AC to go out, turn it into a rental, right? So.
That's right.
That's a good way to start fresh,
That's right.
It's a good way to start fresh. So cost implications. So this stat is over deferred maintenance because it is also partially for those reasons that things get deferred that you don't care about that a tenant moving in probably does or expects not to be that way. So a study by IREM, it's one of we've been quoting. Self-managing landlords who delay maintenance due to personal attachment reasons face 15 to 20% higher long-term repair costs. That is mainly because if you do the proper repairs up front rather than patching things up, you generally save money in the long run.
Yeah.
That's just an easy one. We don't even need to do that. Right? No, just kidding. Professional managers try to be more proactive in their maintenance based on schedules and things that help add value in the long term. One that hits home for us quite well is R22 systems, R22 AC systems we mentioned before. R22 Freon has been banned in the United States, and it's being
It's hard to get and it's expensive.
It's getting more expensive because it's hard to get and it can't be imported anymore. And we're talking like it's up to almost 10 times what the other stuff.
I don't know. I think it's like $100 a pound now or something like that. It's insane. It's crazy how much it is. But $90, something like that.
No, it's more. It's up to like 180, really? 190. Huh. So, and then this is the thing is, when these old AC units start to have repairs, we because of these things, we'll tell landlords, well, I know you could fix it, or this small thing could be fixed or it could be recharged, but you might as well spend $6,000 on a new. For example, $6,000 on a new AC system. I know that sounds like a hit.
Instead of putting $1,500 into every year recharging it, right?
Yeah. So these small leaks in the system, like people are like, how did this repair cost $1,500? It was just a recharge. And I'm like, well, you had a 6-pound system, and 6 pounds of this R22 Freon cost you like $1,200. Yeah. So how many times do you want to do that before it makes it worth it? Or if you just did that, if you do that 3 times and you would have just done it 3 years ago, you would have paid for the whole new unit. So, these are things that can be proactive, if you know about them. Experience does help, but 10 to 15% lower maintenance cost makes you more money. Right? Mm-hmm. That's really the said and done there. So,
on the flip side, talking about AC units before you get to your next stat, some of our clients in the realm of what we're talking about also do the opposite, where okay, it's time to change an AC unit, so I want to put in a 8-pound, 20-SEER train unit that has variable speeds and all this stuff that costs like $15,000, and they don't even live in the home. Like, why? Well, for efficiency. Okay, you don't even pay the bill. Well, the tenant will save money. So you're going to pay an extra $10,000-$12,000 so that the tenant can save more money on the utility bills? I mean, that's a type of business decision that comes from personal preference. It's not a business decision. It's a somebody who's attached to their home, like we're talking about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, or solar panels.
Solar panels.
We talk about solar panels a lot. I've seen solar panels with a generator put in right before making it a rental. I'm not even going to try to make that one make sense, but let's just talk about solar panels. The cost of them based on what you get paid back these days doesn't make sense. If you put them on a rental, even if you generate you're paying for those solar panels and you generate excess power, it credits the tenant's bill. So it's like, it's hard to make that make sense, but people do that for personal reasons. That's the best description I got because it happens often. We see it often, and the personal reasons is vague, but I don't understand the personal reasons. So.
Well, just solar panels in general is probably a whole different topic, but I have yet to see a scenario where mathematically it makes sense to buy, rent, lease, or any other thing to solar panels and put them on your roof and have it ultimately save you money in the long run. The sell is that it saves you monthly because it reduces your energy cost. But if it costs you $47,000 to put them up there, then it's going to take a long time to recoup the savings every single month.
Now, I will take devil's advocate here and say there is probably a side property management it might make sense in. We talk mostly about single family, but these electricity included apartments, maybe it makes sense to throw them on those things. So, but it needs to make sense to the owner to put them on is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, somebody knows how to put them on more inexpensively.
Yeah. So let's jump into stress and time commitment. You got any personal attachment to your time?
I do.
Or your stress levels?
I absolutely do. It's about the only thing I can spend.
I thought this was an interesting stat. We summarize it with burnout, right? Everybody knows what burnout is. Yeah. Survey by the AAOA, it's that apartment association that I don't want to say the whole name again, found that 40% of self-managing landlords end up experiencing burnout within the first 5 years of doing it themselves and switching anyway.
Well, that just goes back to what I was saying, that either leave, hopefully they get a professional manager, or they sell their homes because they're tired of tenants and toilets.
Tired of tenants. They're burned out.
Burned out.
Well, how does the property manager not get burned out?
Because we have systems, and personally, you and I, we absolutely love what we do, but it's mainly because we have systems in place that we stick to, and we make business decisions based on our vast experience, and it makes it a lot easier, a lot more fun, and I don't know, that's it, isn't it?
Well, professional managers experience time savings too, and this one's according to Appfolio. Appfolio is the systems, right? So professional property management services save an average of 20 hours per week on property-related tasks based on efficiency. So be more efficient, be less stressed. Boom.
Systems and technology we've talked about a lot in the past.
Well, you want to talk about finances? Finances and personal attachments, they don't seem to relate to most people.
This is leading me to think about a conversation I had yesterday.
What cost you the most money, John? No, I'm just kidding. That's not the episode.
I have a client that told me that the house is not making enough money, and the taxes and insurance have gone up so much that he's thinking about selling it. And he walks in my office and says, we need to do CMA on this. I'm like, don't you own that house free and clear? Yeah, but the taxes and insurance are going crazy. I'm like, you rent that thing for $2,300 a month. Are you trying to tell me you're spending $2,300 a month on taxes and insurance? No, it ended up being like, less than $400 for the insurance. I figured out his taxes altogether. He's got, $1,400 into it every month. So he's making $1,500 a month. It was like $900 every month. But anyways, the point being, that's the kind of decision that, to your point that you just made, that's the kind of decisions that people make. They freak out because things go up and think, oh, I can't afford this. You're making $1,500 a month. That's what a business is supposed to do for you.
Mm-hmm.
Taxes and insurance go up and down, hopefully.
It's a capital investment, and you can always get your capital back out of it. But if you put it in there to make that much money, then why are you considering taking it out?
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to sell it. Now you've got capital. Now you've realized your gain. And if you want to put it back into something else, that's going to cost you even more. And you already have this property. You don't have to pay all the money to sell it and buy it. I mean, that's more money you're burning, So I don't know. Oh.
Well, for personal reasons, nobody likes paying taxes on paid-off property, right? But,
yeah, see, that adds to it, doesn't it?
You got to do.
Got to do it.
Go get a mortgage on it. See how that plays out. Well, all these topics that we've already talked about, they find that they summarize into a 10 to 15 lower NOI, which is net operating income compared to the professional managers, just when you combine it all. So, and these stats are going into the vacancy and all this stuff. Like it's all combining to show us that financially it makes some sense. So, but I think that's the last one. That's really it. Personal attachment.
So,
I think personal attachment really, as far as the tenants and property itself, can get in the way of you making objective decisions.
Yes. The only other place I see it is during turnover, when it's time to just make decisions on repairs, right? A lot of owners that have personal attachments want to over upgrade or upgrade the wrong things. Sometimes I have to tell owners, like, I love that you want to do this, this, and this, but then you gave me another list that I hate. Like what? Let's not waste time and money on this. Let's just spend it here, right? And this is what we need to do to get it rented, right? We don't need Taj Mahal. We need a good rental property.
Well, and some things require, some upgrades don't make sense if it's not within an upgraded house, So like let me make an extremely nice master bathroom, completely modernized with a new
looks like it's in
shower.
1972.
Yeah, and the rest of the house still
Yeah.
looks like it's in the 70s. And I'm like, well, before they even get to the bathroom, they have to see the rest of the house.
With red carpet, gold drapes, and the beads that come down as doors for the bathroom. That's
Or
how I grew up.
sometimes it outlines what you should have done in the rest of the house, right? All right, you see this is the upgrades that people want. This is how it should look. Well, why is only a fourth of the property look like this? So, I mean, that's being very conservative. Master bathroom is not a fourth of the property. But, you know, even one room, you know, leaving out one room, oh, well, you know, we spent so much money on the rest of the house that we're not going to spend any money on this room. Or, well, okay, well, now you're degrading the money you spent on the rest of the house. You know, making those decisions properly can be extremely important, and not having a personal attachment to what you want, but what the market wants.
The other thing that personal attachment will do will slow things down. So don't forget, we've talked a lot about vacancy days, and when you're in the middle of your turnover, there's nothing more important, right? What we talked about a lot last week. There's nothing that costs a homeowner more than vacancy days.
Get that in.
Yeah, I had to get it in, and so that personal attachment tends to slow things down. The decision-making process that you make when you're personally attached slows down. The bad decisions you make potentially slow things down. The choosing the wrong contractors or the wrong things to do, or, you know, just going through that whole process instead of just efficiently doing it in a really systematic way and getting it done, slows it down. A lot of that stems from, like you said, that personal attachment that you have to the home. So detach, look at it as an investment, just like you do your stock portfolio, right? You don't call the CEO of Starbucks and tell him to start how to run his business every time your stock price goes down. So look at it the same way, right? It's a business, and the best thing you could do is let somebody like us run that business for you, because we know how to do it, and we can make you 15% more and charge you way less than 15%.
And we can speak to it too. It makes sense. I mean, we have our own personal properties that we don't make personal decisions on. I don't manage my own properties. You make decisions on them, and vice versa. You treat it like an owner, right? That's really it.
Yep.
You know, personal attachment.
Love it. Good discussion. This is something that we deal with very regularly for new investors, and even, you know, surprisingly, Kyle, even some experienced investors they're still like that, and that's just their mindset.
Well, there's another end of it too. Sometimes people hold on to properties that are losing the money and don't make sense to keep because they're personally attached to them.
I could be guilty of that.
Yeah.
I think you're talking to me now.
Might be. You're looking. Your hat's shading you a little bit over there, so I'm just throwing a little bit back.
Put my hat down a little bit over here. Can we turn this light out over here, please?
Well, if you'd like to talk to us about any of these things, get rid of that personal attachment, save yourself some stress and time, give us a call, 817-818-9039. Shoot us an email at showmethemoney@wearetpm.com. John and Kyle are out.
We gone.